halfway through the program. We hope you're all doing well and enjoying Winter Streak so far. Thank you again for attending today. If you haven't already, please put your first and last name in the chat, and that way you'll get credit for your attendance today. My name is Jen Gasly, and I am here with Becca Hamner. We are Community Health Coordinators for WellSpan Health, and we also lead the Winter Streak Wellness Program together. A couple things. This workshop is being recorded and will be available on winterstreak.org before the end of this week, as well as it will be emailed to each of you too. Please put any questions that you may think of during the presentation into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation today. In the email I mentioned that we will be sharing, there will also be an evaluation link in the email. Please take a moment to complete that survey for us as well. That will also give you an additional entry for a giveaway. I'm now going to turn it over to Becca, who will introduce today's presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Today, I'm honored to introduce Peter Kuhn. Peter is originally from Germany, settling in Gettysburg in 2006, and was the manager for spiritual care and education for Gettysburg Hospital for 8 years. In 2014, he became the manager for York Hospital, and in 2016, he became the director for the system-wide Department of Spiritual Care and Education here at WellSpan. Peter is also a certified educator with the ACPE, the Standard for Spiritual Care and Education, and a board-certified chaplain. Ordained as a pastor in the Evangelical Church of the Rhineland, he holds standing in the United Church of Christ. Outside of work, Peter loves to sing, travel, and explore the hidden gems of Central PA. And now I will hand it over to Peter.
Thank you, Becca, and welcome everyone to today's session on the Winter Streak. It is appropriate to talk about Winter Streak today and in this season because we really have a winter apparently, and the temperatures are like that today. So my presentation today is called "Finding Meaning Can Change Your Day." Finding meaning can change your day, and I actually want to start with a short exercise, with a quick exercise with you. So I want to put you to work right away, even over lunch. I would like you to think about one thing or one moment or one encounter that you are thankful for since you got up this morning. So think about one thing, one person, one moment, one encounter that you are thankful for since you got up this morning. You can write it down on a piece of paper, or you keep it in your mind. Just visualize your day so far and think about if there's anything that you are thankful for. And we will return to that idea that you had or that memory in a moment in this presentation. So meaning that we know this gives us purpose and helps us even to survive. And one witness to this is Viktor Frankl. He was a psychologist, he was a doctor, and he was also a philosopher, and he was also a survivor of the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. And he coined the following sentence: "People can succeed even in the worst of circumstances if they find meaning. And they can fail even in the best of circumstances if they do not." So to find meaning is really something that gives us life and that gives us purpose and that structures our days and that gives us hope for our lives and for the people surrounding us. Now, what does that have to do with thankfulness? So let's think about what it means to be thankful. As humans, we have the capacity to be thankful. And as long as we have something that we are thankful for, even if it's only one thing, we actually have found meaning for this day and potentially for our lives. So thankfulness is really a way to get meaning, to produce meaning, and to have something that gives us a goal. And even the goal to find something that we are thankful for gives us meaning. As long as we are thankful for one thing, we have found meaning in a day. The Dalai Lama said, if you shift your focus from yourself to others, if you do that and extend your concern to others and cultivate the thought of caring for the well-being of others, then this will have the immediate effect of opening up your life and helping you to reach out. So if you mentally think and shift your focus from yourself to others, extend to concern to others, and cultivate the thought of caring for the well-being of others, this will immediately opening up your life. It will show up in your behaviors. It will show up in what you do and what you act upon. But how do we get there? Good, the wisdom of the Dalai Lama, but how do we get there? I have another saint that gave a pretty good way of going about not only being thankful, but to do what is meaningful. Francis of Assisi said in a 3-step, start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. I have a good example for that. Several years ago, I went on a bike trip on the Gap. You might know the Gap, the Great Allegheny Passage. And I underestimated how much biking I had to do. So the first day, I realized that I had to do 60 miles. I had never done 60 miles on a bike before that. And I wanted to give up and I want to say that doesn't work. I was fortunately with a friend and he said, just start doing what's necessary. Start pedaling. And so I did. And you would not believe it. After a while, I had 20 miles and then I had 40 and I accomplished the 60 miles. So start with what's necessary, paddling, then you will do what's possible, 40 miles, and suddenly you might do even the impossible of 60 miles or more than that. Just an example, but think about your life and how you can start what's necessary. Now, starting necessary things can be quite uncomfortable. It is not necessarily something we are looking forward to. Necessary things are not special things. They are not things that are out of the mundane. They are not very comfortable. They take work and they take especially to start them. And I think it is helpful to find the things that we need to do every day and that help us to start the day. And it is also sometimes important to name one thing that you have completed successfully for a day, even if it is very small, and kind of keep that in mind and go with that thing through the day. Live in the here and now is another part of this wisdom. We all have heard this before. Live in the here and now. Live in the here and in the now. And the ones of you who have been to Mike Diller's presentation several weeks ago, he named a number. He said 50% of the time, 50% of the time in our lives, we are actually not in the here and now. We are either in the past or we are in the future, but we don't spend our time in the actual situation we are in. Eckhart Tolle, who is a life philosopher, has found that very intriguing, and he wrote a whole book about being in the now. And he said, there was never a time when your life was not now. Every individual should be aware of the present moment rather than losing themselves in the anxiety, in worry about the past or the future. We can only change life at this moment. And of course, there's a lot of things from the past that cause us anxiety and worry, and sometimes they help us and they give us a blessing and they're good for us. But the only time when we can change things is really at this moment. In this moment, we can become active to change the course of our own lives and the course of our day. So Tolle and I guess, want to encourage you to be focusing on one task, one aim that makes your day meaningful, and don't be distracted by the circumstances. Enjoy the moment. Talking about circumstances, there's a lot of circumstances that keep us from being in the here and in the now. I already named some of them. Tolle named some of them. There's a lot of anxiety about how our past has been, how it's impacting our current situation. There's a lot of anxiety about the future. There's a lot of guilt about what we have experienced in the past. There's a lot of regret. And Tolle asked, how can we drop that kind of negativity that is impacting and hindering us from being in the here and now? How can we drop that negativity that kind of intrudes our thoughts and our feelings all the time and keeps us from being in the here and now and keeps us from being in the moment and really present with ourselves and with people? What do you think? Tolle has a pretty easy answer, a surprising answer at least. Maybe it's not easy. We can drop negativity by dropping it, by letting go of what is painful and what is giving us a burden. He said, how do you drop a piece of hot coal that you're holding in your hand? By recognizing that you don't want to suffer the pain or carry the burden anymore that this piece of hot coal in a metaphorical sense is giving you. And then you let it go. That sounds pretty easy. It is a pretty long and complicated process at times, but it is also a process that we can manage and that we can do. So how can we start dropping the pieces of hot coal that we are holding in our hands, the negativity that is impacting us and hindering us to be in the present moment with ourselves and other people? Another concept that's important in this connection is self-compassion. What is self-compassion? Dr. Kristen Neff, who is a psychologist, a scholar, and an author, has said the following. She basically had three principles or three dynamics that we need in the process of being self-compassionate. She said we need to be giving us self-kindness instead of self-judgment. We need to live common humanity instead of isolation. And we need to be mindful and live mindfulness instead of over-identification. Now, what does that all mean? The first dynamic, self-kindness instead of self-judgment, she described the following way. She said, when we fail or when we feel inadequate or when we have made mistakes, we have a large tendency to flagellate ourselves with self-criticism. There's a very critical voice in ourself that dishes out self-judgment to ourselves. And instead she says, why don't we treat ourselves with self-kindness? How do we get there from self-judgment to self-kindness? The second dynamic she's describing helps. She says when we are self-judging, we oftentimes isolate ourselves. We think we are the only ones who are failing, who are not adequate. We are the only ones who are not ever, we are the only ones that make mistakes. And we forget that, of course, everybody's inadequate at moments. Everybody is failing at moments and everybody makes mistakes. So how can we come back to be really somebody that is connecting oneself with all of humanity, with all people, and not stay in isolation? About the third dynamic, mindfulness instead of over-identification, Kristen Neff says, we should treat ourselves like we had a good friend treat us, without excusing our responsibility and accountability, but also without accusing ourselves and building up shame and guilt. So a friend, a good friend, an honest friend is not letting us let go without taking on responsibility and accountability. It is not letting us go either with covering us with shame and guilt. So mindfulness, being mindful instead of over-identification with the things that we have done or the things we think we are. Okay, after these thoughts, I want to come back to the beginning of the story, at the beginning of our presentation today. You may remember that I asked you to think about one thing that you are thankful for today, one thing that you can visualize in front of your eyes that you say, this was good today. There's a story behind this exercise. Several years ago, a friend of ours was visiting from Germany. You may have realized by now that I'm originally from Germany. He is a psychologist. He's actually pretty accomplished. He has written several books. He has his own academy. But when he came to us to visit for about 4 weeks, he was in a larger life crisis. And so we thought, if we give him a house and a home for 4 weeks to find to himself, we will be able to help him. But he also was able to help us. So each day, when I came home from work, that was actually when I was at Gettysburg Hospital, he was sitting in our backyard with his laptop working remotely. And when I was ready to dump the frustrations of the day on him, he asked, share with me, Peter, share with me one thing that was good today. Share with me one thing among all the things that were difficult or frustrating or boring, or rather exhausting. Share with me one thing that was good today. And he held me to it. He didn't let me slip by until I responded. And after sharing my frustrations, he repeated this question for 4 weeks. So when I came home, I could expect to have him say, one good thing, Peter, one good thing. So that was an important exercise that at the beginning, I did not feel very comfortable about, because I rather wanted to share with him my frustrations and the things that did not work out and the things that were exhausting and tiring. But I lived into it. And after a while, sharing this one good thing gave me the sense that I had a choice. And I felt empowered because I heard myself say and own this one good thing. And it changed my outlook on this day in that moment. I became thankful, with other words, and it had a bigger impact than expected. Now, all the other things that did not work out, that were tiring and frustrating and complicated and difficult, didn't go away. They were all still there. But added to them was the thing I was thankful for, the thing that was good, the thing that I remembered. And it changed my perception of the day. It changed because I realized the day has a purpose and a meaning. And I could say that even some of the frustrating and tiring things had a purpose and a meaning. So, with other words, the day was worth living. So let us go back to our question from the beginning, and that you can ask also at the end of the day or in the middle of the day or whenever you have time, what is the one thing that you are thankful for today? What is the one thing that can change your day or your outlook on your day and your outlook on everything you have experienced that day? Oftentimes, when you think about one thing, more than one thing comes to mind. And if you can think of one thing that was good, you have something to be thankful for. And you might, as I said, even be thankful for the difficult things. Now, there's one important thing about this. I had to have my friend in the backyard asking me, stopping me. One good thing, Peter. And so it is important to choose someone that you trust to hold you accountable each day, to pause and to share what was the one good thing of the day. This could be a family member or a friend. It could be in person or on the phone or online. And sometimes it helps when we define a place where we take time to pause, kind of like a ritual that we do every day, and that becomes routine and marks each day. As I said, it made a much bigger difference than I thought. I just saw in the chat that somebody said, "My dog always is there um, when I come home and probably wag his or her tail." And why not being another creature that can help us with this and is a partner in this gratefulness? All right, you can also go one more step because we quickly get used to all the things, the people, the good moments we have, that we take them for granted. I was moved by an interview that I saw yesterday, actually, with one of the passengers of the Delta plane that flipped over during landing at the Toronto airport. And the person said it was a younger man, and he said, "I've never been so thankful for my life than I am today. And I didn't realize how good life is, what a gift life is." We always take our lives for granted, and oftentimes we do. But when something is threatened to be taken away, we realize how important, how precious, how beautiful things are. Gratitude is the royal road to happiness. It is something that we are capable of, we are able of to do, and it can help us to become happier and more rounded human beings. Now think again about your day today and think about a situation, an encounter, a process, or a thing that you took for granted. But think not only about what good has happened to you, but think also how you have made the day better for someone else. How has the day been better for someone else? That's actually one thing the passenger from the plane also said. He said, "This would be a whole different day if anybody would have been seriously hurt or even died in this accident. But I'm so glad everybody made it out alive." Meister Eckhart was a philosopher, theologian, a mystic in the 13th century. And he said this sentence that I always liked: "If the only prayer you said was thank you, that would be enough." Gratefulness can give our life meaning and can change our lives to something that's precious and good. So I wanted to give you a little list what to remember. Start with the necessary. It might be uncomfortable. Be self-compassionate and let go of negativity by dropping it. Name one good thing. Be grateful and don't take it for granted. Find a partner and time to ask you the question. There's something larger than yourself that gives your life purpose, especially if you care for others. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Peter. That was wonderful. I feel a little more at peace with myself right now.
Good.
Peter, your PowerPoint presentation, is it okay if we should email that out to everyone after on Friday with the email with the link to the workshop?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, great. Just some fabulous comments in the chat. A lot of things to be grateful for. I was reading through some kitties and dogs and the warmth during this cold winter, food and water and sunshine and birds on these cold days. They're all great things to be thankful for. Um, does anybody have any questions? while we're wrapping up that for Peter?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but I do love the comment that we need this once a week. I think whether this was new for you or a reminder, this was extremely vital and a great halfway point as you're going through all these different changes and challenges through the winter or through the winter streak, work, life, everything.
I
There
actually,
was, oops,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead, Becca.
There was, hold on, I want to make sure I didn't miss any, but there was one that says, can you talk more about over-identification versus mindfulness?
Ooh, sure I can. It may take longer than 4 minutes, but um, yes, I think over-identification is when we are spinning around ourselves. In Christian theology, there's a term for this. It's actually one of the expressions of sin when we are too much just basically when we are consumed with the worry and the anxiety about ourselves, and when we over-identify with our own persona. And mindfulness is really realizing the mind is not only full, but we are looking at something outside of ourselves. We are finding something outside of ourselves that's as real as we are. And we are becoming part of something else rather than only of ourselves without losing ourselves. That's the other side. We are not supposed to lose ourselves, but we're also not supposed to just circle around ourselves. So we need something outside of ourselves that we can pay not only attention to, but that we care about and that we are connected to. I hope that helps.
I just wanted to shout out this comment I thought was really cool that somebody just said they want to start doing this with their kids at dinner time to reflect on what they can be grateful for their from their
Mhm.
positives instead of focusing on the negative. I love that on the negative because it's so easy just to get caught up in things that are aggravating versus good things of the day.
Yes, that's a wonderful exercise. That's wonderful.
That's
It's kind
that's
of it's a prayer in some ways, you know.
I love
So
that.
yeah.
I messaged Becca during this and said, was this presentation made specifically for us? Just it was really great.
We're all human, right? So we all get caught up in our negativity at times,
Yeah,
and sometimes more times than others. So yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Just a couple things before we end. Um, please go ahead and check out winnerstreak.org. On there, you'll find lots of resources, as well as a link to the recording of this workshop. We'll post that on Friday. And again, you will also get an email with the link and an evaluation to complete. And we will include today's PowerPoint presentation in that email. So we appreciate everyone attending today. We hope you all feel a little more at peace and positive like I do. We hope to see you at our next workshop in 2 weeks. That will be on March the 5th. We will be doing strength training made easy. So we hope to see you there. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to Becca or I. So thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter.
Appreciate it. Thank you.